So today we're doing lesson 4.25 again, module 4, lesson 25. But we're not going to only review what we learned yesterday with Ms. Lehman, but we're going to dive further into the concept. Okay, so your learning goal is to be able to divide a whole number by a unit fraction, and actually that's incomplete. We're going to do this using what?
Tape diagrams.
Using tape diagrams, yeah. But today, not only using tape diagrams, but also just using numbers too, okay? Wonderful. Let's first talk about the problem of the day. Here's a problem from yesterday's lesson that you did with Ms. Lehman. It says Jenny buys 5 pounds of chocolate. If she puts 1/4 of a pound in each bag, how many bags can she make? Okay, so remember, if we did this, we would draw a tape diagram and show that it's 5 pounds of chocolate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We would label it 5 pounds, right? And if she's going to put 1/4 pound in each bag, I need to split each pound into how many equal pieces? 4, because this pound right here, here's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. And we can show that by drawing a number line. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. Yes? And if I did that for each piece of chocolate, or each pound of chocolate, I should say, how many different bags of chocolate could she make? 20, because if we count them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. What this tape diagram is showing is that in 5 pounds of chocolate, there are 20 servings of 1/4 pound each. Does that make sense? Imagine if I have 5 pounds of chocolate and I cut it into 1/4 piece chunks, 1/4 pound chunks, how many pieces will I have altogether? 20. How do I show this in a number sentence? Well, I'm taking 5 pounds of chocolate and I'm dividing it into 1/4 sized pieces for a total of 20 pieces. Make sure you have the tape diagram and the number sentence written down. This is what we learned yesterday, yes? Yeah. Okay, good. You did the following problems with Ms. Lehman. You did 2 divided by 2 equals 1. We already knew that from like 3rd grade, right? 2 divided by 1 equals 2. Then you did 2 divided by 1/2. So if you divided 2 pounds of chocolate into 1/2 size pieces, you got 4. If you had 2 pounds of chocolate and you divided it into 1/3 sized pieces, you found out there would be 6 pieces, yes? And if you had 2 pounds of chocolate and you wanted to divide it into 1/4 sized pieces, you would have 8 pieces. What patterns did you notice yesterday? Talk to your table group. We're seeing that in all these problems, you multiplied the whole, which is the first number, right? Not the whole number, it's the whole, it's what you're dividing. And if you multiplied that by the divisor, the denominator of the divisor, you would get the product. So following that pattern, if I had, say, 2 divided into 1/5 size pieces, how many pieces would there be, everyone?
10.
What if I had 2 divided by 1/18 size pieces? How many would there be? 36, right? Because I would have a piece of tape, and there's 2 pounds, and then each one's divided into 18 sections, right? And then this one's also divided into 18 sections, right? Do you guys see how that would work? Cool. I want you to just listen right now, and then I'm going to give you a chance to take notes, okay? Right now, I want to remind you that there's 2 different ways you'll see division come up in word problems. There's 2 meanings of division. Everyone's looking up right now because this is a little bit confusing, and I'm going to give you some time to write it in your own words, okay? The first meaning is called grouping. Give me a thumbs up if you remember me talking about this before. Yeah, nice. Okay, grouping means you're trying to figure out how many groups there are if you already know the size of each group. So in this case, remember, when you have a division problem, you have the whole divided by the divisor to equal the quotient, right? Right? Okay, so in this case, for sharing problems, I'm going to write that in a better way. Whole divided by divisor equals quotient, okay? So in this case, the divisor, whatever the whole is, it doesn't matter. Your divisor is the size of each unit, okay? Because you already know the size of each group. You already know how many pounds of chocolate are in each section, or in each piece. But you're trying to figure out how many pieces there are. Does that make sense? It's called grouping because you know the size of each group, but you're trying to figure out how many groups there are, okay? The other way we can think about division is called sharing. Sharing means figuring out how much each group gets if you already know how many groups there are. Okay, so in this case, the divisor is the number of groups there are, and the quotient is how many pieces each person gets. Right now, I want you to take a minute and silently write this in your own words. Explain what grouping means and sharing means. So if we know that grouping means you're trying to figure out the number of groups, and sharing means you're trying to figure out how much each group gets, we're going to try to classify or organize or sort some of these division problems, okay? So this one says, 12 cards are put in packs of 4. How many packs are there? What do we already know? We know that there's 12 cards, that's our whole, and our divisor would be what number? 4. In this problem, we're doing 12 divided by 4. But are we trying to figure out how many groups there are, or how much each group gets? We're trying to figure out how many groups there are, huh? We already know that each pack of cards will have how many cards in them? 4. We know that right? What we don't know is how many packs are there, because the question asks how many packs are there. So if we think of a pack like a group, are we trying to figure out how many cards are in each group, or how many groups there are? How many groups there are? So is this grouping or sharing? Grouping, nice. Let's put it on the grouping side here. Let's try this one. 12 cards are shared equally with 4 people. How many cards does each person receive? Would this one be grouping or sharing? Let's think about, first of all, what division equation would you do here? 12 divided by 4. Is that the same as the 12 divided by 4 in the first problem? Okay, but this time are we trying to figure out how many groups there are, or how much each person gets?
How much each person gets.
So do we already know how many groups there are, or how many people there will be? We're trying to figure out how to share them equally amongst 4 people, aren't we? So is this grouping or sharing? So do you see how the same division problem, 12 divided by 4, can be thought of in 2 different ways? Do you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. Now let's try this one. This is the problem we just did. Jenny buys 5 pounds of chocolate. If she puts 1/4 pound in each bag, how many bags can she make? Is this grouping or sharing? Are we trying to figure out how many bags there are, or how much chocolate goes into each bag?
Grouping.
We're trying to figure out how many bags there are. Do we know how much chocolate gets shared into each bag? Ben, how much chocolate gets shared into each bag?
I don't know.
How much chocolate are we putting in each bag?
1/4 of a pound.
Yeah, we're putting 1/4 of a pound. So do we already know how much each group gets? Each group of chocolate gets how much chocolate? 1/4 of a pound. Do we know how many groups of chocolate there will be? So if we're trying to figure out how many groups there are, is this grouping or sharing? Grouping. Good. Let's put it on the grouping side. Okay, here's another one. 3 miles is half of the trip. How long is the whole trip? Well, do we already know how many groups there are? If 3 is half of a trip, how many groups are there? 2. So if we already know how many groups there are, is this grouping or sharing? Sharing. Very good. Okay, so it's very important to know that there are 2 different ways to think of division. Okay? If I were to ask you, 8 is 4 times of what number? I want everyone to write that sentence down. 8 is 4 times of what number? You guys were all able to tell me that 8 is 4 times of 2, but what number sentence did you think in your head in order to figure that out? Zeev? 8 divided by? You did 8 divided by 2? You did 8 divided by 4 equals 2, in order to tell me that 8 is 4 times of 2. Go ahead and write the number sentence down. Now, let's write this sentence down. 8 is 2 times of what number? 8 divided by 2 equals 4. We could use that number sentence to figure out that 8 is 2 times of 4. Okay? Now, write this sentence down in black. 8 is half of what number? Go. In the same pattern. It doesn't make sense in English, but what it's really asking is 8 is half times of what number? So if we used 8 divided by 4 to figure out 8 is 4 times of 2, and 8 divided by 2 to figure out 8 is 2 times of 4, what number sentence could we use following the same pattern to answer this question? 8 is half of what number? Sporty? You got it. We could say 8 divided by 1/2, by 1/2, and what would the answer be? 16. This is the number sentence that shows that 8 is half of 16. Michael said, couldn't you do 8 times 2 equals 16? Do they have the same answer?
Yes.
So are we seeing that 8 divided by 1/2 is equal to 8 times 2? Does that follow the pattern we did yesterday where we said, oh, it's the whole divided or multiplied by the divisor? Is that what you see here? But the question is not asking what is 2 times of 8. The question is asking 8 is 1/2 of what number. So the correct number sentence would be 8 divided by 1/2. Because if I said 8 is 4 times of what number, would you say, oh, that's 4 times 2 equals 8? No, you would say it's 8 divided by 4. Do you see the difference there? They're equal, but it's not what the words are asking. Okay? Great question. If Jenny buys 2 pounds of chocolate this time, and this is only half the amount that she needs to make brownies, how many pounds of chocolate will she need to make brownies? Go ahead and draw a tape diagram that shows this problem. Okay, so if Jenny buys 2 pounds of chocolate, here's the 2 pounds she buys. I'm going to label it 2. Is that all she needs to make the brownies? No, this is only half of what she needs. So this time for the number line, we're going to show down here that this is none. This is 1/2 of what she needs. She's going to need more to get to a whole batch of brownies, isn't she? She's going to need another 2 pounds. Do you guys see how this tape diagram models what it says in the question? It's very important that you draw this number line at the bottom to show that 2 is only half of the way to a full recipe of brownies. Yesterday on the exit ticket, a lot of you did not do a good job on the number lines. Did Miss Lehman talk to you one-on-one about that? Great. Okay, so what's the answer, by the way? Altogether, she'll need 4 pounds. We've now showed it using a tape diagram, but let's use a number sentence. Do you guys agree that if Jenny buys 2 pounds of chocolate and this is half the amount she needs to make brownies, it's basically asking you 2 is half of what number, right? And so based on what we did on the previous slide, how could we write a number sentence that shows 2 is half of what number? Reagan?
2 divided by 1/2.
Awesome. 2 divided by 1/2. Now, before we write equals 4, do you guys see the tape diagram? Does the tape diagram basically show 2 times 2? So I want you guys to write for the number sentence 2 divided by 1/2 equals 2 times 2, which equals 4 pounds. Okay, so a complete number sentence will have 3 parts. The division sentence, the multiplication sentence, and the answer. This might seem a little redundant or excessive or repetitive to some of you right now, but I want us to get in the habit of writing all 3 parts of the number sentence, okay? Okay, so this time, Jenny buys 2 pounds of chocolate again. But is that the entire amount she needs for the recipe?
No.
No, so on the number line, we can show that it's only how much of what she needs? 1/3. And so she's going to buy another 2 pounds, or she's going to need another 2 pounds, and that will take her to how many thirds? 2. So does she have enough to make her brownies? No, she needs another 2 pounds, and then that will take her to one whole batch of brownies. Very good. So all together, she's going to need how many pounds of chocolate? 6 pounds. Very good. So this is what the tape diagram would look like that represents this problem. Is this the only way to do 2 divided by 1/3? No. But based on this problem, this is the way. Does that make sense? Okay. I just told you. 2 is 1/3 of what number? What division equation are we writing there?
2 divided by 1/3.
2 divided by 1/3. You got it. That's the division part of the number sentence. What would the multiplication part be? There's 2 ways you can think of it. You could use what we know about the pattern, whole times denominator, or you could look at our tape diagram. 2, 2, 2. All right, what would it be, Roni? 2 times 3, which equals 6 pounds. Very good. Okay, are you guys seeing the pattern here?
Yeah.
Good.